Hello and welcome to Comics as Resistance with me, Bianca Xunise. If you missed the panel on Juneteenth, don't worry, we got you covered. I am doing another demo of my workshop here just for you, and this one is going to be problem-free. We're not going to have anybody come over and try to give us a bad time. We're just going to have a good time. You just might hear a couple of meows from my cat. Ignore her, but let's jump right in. So I'm gonna jump over here, share my screen. So if you just give me a momento while I figure that out. Bada bing, baba duke. Aha, here we go. Perfect. Okay, so welcome again. Comics as Resistance. With me, Bianca Xunise. Thank you so much, Believer, for hosting this workshop. And again, I encourage you to donate to Asat's Daughters. They are a great organization based in Chicago, where I'm based. I love to donate locally. It's really important to donate locally and not always to the big orgs, but to the smaller orgs that sometimes get overlooked. So this one's a really great place for young girls and gender nonconforming people just all come together and learn and understand what it means to resist. So all you need is your own art supplies. I like to work either, oh, you know what? Let me swing over and grab my pencil case. It's right over here. Just gonna listen to my wheels real quick. And we're back. And I'm gonna stop share real quick and let you see me. Hi. And so I'm gonna show you just some of my favorite supplies real quick. There's my inhaler. That's not it, but it's something that's needed. Okay, so my favorite supplies is always a photo blue pencil. I love to sketch. I'm old school. I love to do things on paper. So you're gonna need like a photo blue pencil and your favorite inker. So you draw first with your photo blue and then you ink. I like to use Kuretake or Tambao calligraphy pens. These are made with Sumi or India ink. They don't smear. They're perfect. Give them a chance to dry. Anything will smear while it's wet. But the reason why these are called photo blue is because when you scan them, and I just use the scanner on my old iPhone. It's called iScanner. There's different scanner apps that you can use. You can get rid of the blue, so all you see is your perfect crisp lines. And also, if you need to erase, always keep a white eraser with you. This has been pulled out, for example. This is a cute one that I got in my travels to New York with one of my friends, Wendy Shu, who's also another great cartoonist you should check out, Wendy XU. And this is white. I like to use white ones because, again, they don't smear, which is great. And with the pink ones that you might have used in like high school, elementary school, those ones get all over the place. Kneaded erasers are great too, but I love to use a white one. So now that we got supplies figured out, and again, also if you're a digital queen, don't feel ashamed. I also like to use a tablet and my Apple Pencil. Whatever you like to use a Sharpie. I used to draw my comics in Sharpie. So just feel confident in your supplies. Okay, so let's jump back into the presentation. Boop. Aha, there it is. Okay, cool. So again, welcome, and let's dive right in. So in this workshop, we will be working on gathering key tools in creating successful comics as a form of activism and resistance. By the end of this workshop, you should feel more confident in starting your journey or continuing your journey in political comics. A little bit about me. I'm Bianca Xunise. This is what I used to look like with my hair curly. I got bored and straightened it, but you know, hair is hair. I'm also followed by ghosts, as you can see. I am a cartoonist and comics professor based out of Chicago, Illinois. So this is, I'm old. I'm not that, I'm a millennial, so I'm no longer young. Gen Z is the new young generation. And my favorite movie growing up was Adventures in Babysitting. I was about her age when this movie came out. And it's just one of my favorite things. Also, hot dogs, Chicago dogs. Like, yeah, pizza's great, but give me a Chicago dog almost any day. I don't know. Pizza or hot dogs? hard choice, but I love them both. I love to eat. I'm a Midwestern girl. Give me food, please. I used to be vegan, and I love everything. Give me it all. Give me vegan food. I'll eat that too, please. Whatever. Okay, so my work primarily focuses on the plight and daily struggles of being a young Black weirdo in America. Having that young part is probably getting a little outdated. I'm in my 30s, so it's still young. It's still young. Let's keep it. And let's see. This is an example of one of my comics about me wearing a pink wig, and the first time that I had experienced with dyed hair. As you can see in this video, you can kind of see I'm using daylight instead of turning on my lamps, but my hair is kind of pink. It's brighter in person, but long story short, this is that comic. But I also talk about mental health awareness, sad boys, and music. So here's an example of one of my mental health comics. Sometimes I feel like a punching bag for the world's aggression. Here's an example of my sad boy comics, wearing the classic anthem of the sad boys, the Smiths. And then here's a comic I did for Bitch Magazine about my relationship with 80s music and how it relates to my relationship with my mom. And I also do comics on police brutality, which started me at Ignatz in 2017. It's over there off screen, but I don't feel like grabbing it. It's heavy. And this is a comic I did about my own experience with police brutality and a reflective in the Black Lives Matter movement that we are experiencing right now. So there's that. And as of 2020, I became the second nationally syndicated Black female cartoonist next to Barbara Brandon Croft for my work in Six Chicks. You can read Six Chicks at Comics Kingdom or possibly your local paper. We're in quite a few papers nationwide and overseas. I know Toronto Star is a paper that we're in if you're based in Canada. So just take a look at that and see if I'm in the paper. If you haven't seen Six Chicks in your paper, demand it. Ask for Six Chicks in your paper if you want to see me in print. But you can also read it at Comics Kingdom for free, or you can get a subscription and you can read older comics. Oh, also, if you subscribe to my Patreon, you can also see Six Chicks comics on there. So this is one of the ones I did that felt relevant to the conversations that are going on with the whole Gen Z versus millennials conversation that we're having right now. And as a professor, this is kind of example of me as a professor. And so I say, I made a 90s joke the other day. One of my students called me a boomer. It wasn't until I started crying that they realized I'm a millennial. So ooh, yeah, I'm a crybaby, whatever. Why should we use comics as a form of resistance, and how does that work? So this is, I just want to express, and we will stop share so you can see me right quick. Okay, hi. Comics works as a great form of resistance because it's a visual medium. So here's two key points I want to express to you. One is with a visual medium such as comics, you can work against language barriers. So if someone doesn't necessarily understand the language that you speak, visually they can still see what you're trying to portray through images. That's why comics are used as infographics. Think of when you take an airplane and you pull out the thing that talks about what to do in case of emergency. It's all visual, so everyone, regardless of what language they speak, they can see it. And this is also, again, for people who have the ability to see. I also don't want to speak against those who don't have that ability. I don't want to shame that either. And then the other thing about why comics works as from resistance, as it's disarming, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more. So let's dive right back in. I'm trying to be fancy with this toggling. Haha, okay, that was fast this time. Boop, boop, be-doop. So let's get started. Woo! Key points in your comics. What's your platform? So is it Black Lives Matter? Is it LBGTQA+? Is it reproductive health, or is it maybe mental health, mental awareness, all those types of things? And so, or perhaps it is an intersection of all of these things. I know in my work, I kind of touch on all of these things, and that's okay. You may find that you may be like, okay, I really want to do comics on mental illness and suicide awareness and things like that. And then you'll understand the intersectionalities of that. You're like, okay, well, how does this affect me is my gender? How does this affect me as my race? Or how does this affect me in my class? And you'll see the things in there. And that's, again, how we get intersectionality. Intersectionality is so important in your comics and so important as we work in resistance and understanding those different things that you may exist in different boxes. Point number dos. You should have a personal connection to your platform, but it doesn't have to be direct. So here's two examples of some of my political comics. One over here on the left is one I did for the Nib, and it's a Halloween comic I did where me dressed up talking to a witch at a bar, and it says, "Don't feel bad. In February, people pretend to care about my culture too." So you see this sad witch over here thinking that Halloween was going to be a day where they were all going to be excited to see her, and instead everybody's in a costume looking like her, kind of mocking her, and she doesn't feel very good about it. And that's kind of the same as sometimes in Black culture where you see everybody's celebrating you, but it's also sort of a mockery and you feel kind of weird about it. Long story short, celebrate Halloween. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday, but I just thought it was a funny sort of not gonna joke. And then here is another one that I did recently. Karen's for Target. All Targets matter. Solidarity for Target. Rose all day. As Karen's marched into the street crying over Targets being looted in big box stores and stuff like that. So I am not a pagan. I am also not a Karen, but I can talk about these things because even though I am a Black person, I understand, again, the intersectionality of things that I exist in. And so this is where you can kind of talk about other things that may affect you, or you may be speaking to someone from your group. So I want to take a quick peek over here. No, I'm going to go back. So expanding on this a little bit more. So say you are a cisgendered white person and you want to do comics about Black Lives Matter, but you don't want to step over Black people and be the loudest person in the room. That's fine. All allies are important. We appreciate every ally and every sort of oppressed and marginalized group. The best thing you can do is not necessarily speak over the people in that marginalized group, but to speak to the people who look and check the same boxes as you. So you can not necessarily talk to Black people about Black Lives Matter, but talk to other white people about Black Lives Matter. And how can you have that conversation to the people in your own community of why these things are important and so forth. So let's say you may want to do a comic about diabetes, but you don't have diabetes. You can still talk about health and how these things affect all humans. At the end of the day, we are all human, and regardless of whatever identity politics we may have, we all believe the same. We all have the same ambitions, hopes, and dreams. We all hope to love. We all hope to have a community. We all hope to be free. And so don't be afraid to speak on things that you're passionate about, regardless if you're in that group. It's just important to respect those leaders in that group and not speak over them. And so the other point that I kind of touched about before about why comics as resistance is a great form of activism is personal stories help disarm your audience. So here's a comic I did during the March for Our Lives protest when there was the shootings in Florida, and Naomi, I think her name was Wilder, I'm not necessarily sure how to pronounce it, but at the time she was 11 years old and she stepped up in front of all of these people to talk about wanting to get rid of guns in the United States and gun violence and how that affects students. And for me, I'm no longer 11, I'm in my 30s now, but seeing her speak in front of all these people was so impressive to me. And I talked about, when I was 11 years old, I patiently waited for summer to end so I can go back to school. I'm a Virgo, I'm a nerd, school is my jam. But kids today are living with PTSD, over their right to feel safe in their classroom. So I can still have empathy and sympathy for children today, because they deserve the right to be able to go to school without having fear that they may be killed senselessly to gun violence. And so this comic is available to read on the Lily and Washington Post, and it talks about, again, just how it is important for children to feel safe in school. And something like this is cute, and it kind of gives you the same sort of cognitive memories of like, oh yeah, I remember going to school, and I remember getting my Crayolas and getting your notebooks and your folders and your Lisa Frank, and you're like, yay, school. And but when you went to school, you probably felt safe, unless you're part of this generation now who's under this feeling of not feeling safe. Or there's generations before. I know that, for Generation X and even some baby boomers, with some of the hiding under their desk when they were worried during the Cold War, that's again something that you can relate upon and bring those stories together. But you don't want to preach at your audience. You want to touch their hearts. We always want to operate in an understanding and an act of love, and we want to be able to communicate to each other and respect one another. You don't want to demean your audience. You don't want to talk down to them. If you were ever someone who maybe went to church and felt like the pastor or the reverend or the minister was talking down to you, and it kind of made you feel ashamed, you don't want to do that. You want to talk to people and have them relate to you, and have them be like, oh wait, you know what? Yeah, I do understand that. And sometimes we don't have time for that. Sometimes you kind of just have to give it to them straight. But it's best to try to just, at least for me and the way I do my comics, I try to just disarm my audience and be like, hey, you want to see this? Like, wait, here's the point. And then people, they start to soften. I've always believed in planting a seed and allowing it to grow naturally. So even if I'm not able to change someone's mind immediately with my comic, I know by them reading it, they're forced to think about it, and it'll stay with them. And for them, it's up to them to change from that point. Okay, and point number 4 is to know the facts. You don't want to be so passionate about something that you're just hyperbolizing and you sound like somebody and part of 45's team where they're just making stuff up, and you sound like you're on Fox News and you're just blowing all these things out of proportion and you're talking like Meghan McCain. You don't want to do all that. You want to have your facts straight. So here's an example of a comic that I did for after 45 became president, and I talked about how 94% of Black women voted for Hillary Clinton. And so that's, again, giving us a concrete, factual things to back your things up with. There's plenty of places that you can source your information. Do it old school like you did back when you were younger. So make sure you stick to important sources.orgs, newspapers, EDUs, libraries. I think today Wikipedia has become a little bit more legitimate than it was when it first started. When I was in college, we were not allowed to use Wikipedia, but today it's a little bit more sound. But again, you want to make sure that you're backing things up with facts, because it helps to make sure that you're not necessarily just ranting about something or that you're just kind of going on a tangent. It helps to have also some concrete evidence. Here's some data. Love that stuff. Okay, so let's practice. At this point, I'm not necessarily going to give time within this video for you to practice, so pause when you feel like you need to pause and do a little doodle. And again, like, I'm gonna put my information at the end of this video, but if you decide to do something, please tag me, please tag The Believer, tag both of us. I love to read your comics. Again, I'm a comics professor. I love to read people's work. I love to offer advice, and also just to encourage you to keep working. So it's time to claim your soapbox with a 3-panel comic. I'm not going to go too much into the 3-panel comic structure, but I do want to express that it's always important before you start any comic to remember the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. when you're writing something. The 5 W's, remember those: who, what, when, where, why. And when you're drawing your setting, people should be able to identify that in the first panel. So here we are. This is an example of a comic that I've done. Panel 1, I want you to be able to announce yourself. So grab your sketchbooks, draw a little doodle of yourself, announce yourself. So here is me going, hi, I wrote a song. And you don't have to stick to any sort of format. If you want to stick to the traditional square panel for your comic, do that. If you want a free format, I like to free form. I like to have my comics feel more like a journal. Do that. Do whatever. Challenge those ideas. Comics are art. Art is subjective. Do whatever you feel like doing. Okay, panel 2. What's your soapbox? So for me, here we go. I'm going, y'all don't deserve Black women. All right, so that's my bad singing, but this is me. This is my soapbox. So I'm saying y'all don't deserve Black women, because in the Black Lives Matter movement, we continue to ignore trans women. We continue to ignore trans people, non-binary people, and Black women in these conversations. While Black women, Black trans women, trans people, lesbians, non-binary people continue to be at the forefront of these conversations, like my favorite, Angela Davis. And panel 3, final thoughts. So here I am sweating, going, good night, at the end of my concert. So I'm gonna run through that one more again. Panel 1, you want to announce yourself. Panel 2, what's your soapbox? Keep it cute. Don't go too long. Make sure your audience isn't going to be overwhelmed by reading. We're not doing an Alan Moore comic right now. We're just going to keep it short and sweet and something you can post on Instagram. And panel 3, your final thoughts. So it doesn't have to be thank you, good night. It can be a continuation of whatever it is that you said in panel 2. Wrap it up. Keep it cute. You can always expand on it in another comic. Do a series of 3 panels. Keep it moving. Make it a whole. We got the whole summer. We're in quarantine. We can draw comics every day. This is a great exercise of pouring the energy to. It doesn't even have to be a comic of resistance. If you want to use this format in doing something, just getting your emotions out of what you're going through right now, being in quarantine, dealing with a pandemic, dealing with us dismantling white supremacy as an entire culture of people, it's important to write some of these things out and get it out. So I encourage you to do that as well. Okay, so again, if you need to rewind and get all of those points, I encourage you to do that. But we're not going to share comics in here. This is the presentation I used for the original live workshop that we did on Juneteenth. So we're not going to have a chance to share comics in this video because it's pre-recorded, as you can see. But please, please tag me on social media at Bianca Xunise. That is on everything: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr. I haven't checked Tumblr in some months, so if you post it there, it may be a minute before I see it. I am not on the TikTok, so don't worry about that. And tag Believer Magazine. It's only Believer Mag. They have been amazing to host this workshop for us all. So tag them. They want to see it. They want to see the work. They want to see you guys participating in this. So please tag us both. And that is the workshop. It was pretty brief, wasn't it? It wasn't too bad. So thanks again for joining us today in this workshop. And once again, if you haven't already donated to Assata's Daughters, please do so. Please donate to those Black organizations that need it. And if you decide to donate to another organization and you're like, I'm really passionate about this, something like maybe like the Okra Project or another Black Lives Matter organization, let me know. I am passionate about donating, so tag me in that. But again, I'm at Becky Xunise and at Believer Magazine. Let us see your comics. And that is it. That was easy, right? So I'm gonna stop the share right quick so you can see me. Hi. But again, like, thank you so much for joining me in this. I hope I didn't go too fast. I tried to talk slowly, but I know I talk fast when I'm excited. But yeah, I'm just really excited for everyone to pick up a pencil and want to put their work to work, make it work, right? Okay, that's enough. Anyway, so enjoy the rest of your summers. Enjoy making your comics. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here for you. And just enjoy the rest of the day. All right, so thank you and have a good rest of your day.